in our lab, and if we start from the beginning, I have working with soil organic matter since 2014, when I enrolled PhD studies at Lithuania Research Center for Agriculture and Forestry. Later in 2018, I defended my dissertation under the topic amount of polychlorbiphenyls and polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons in Lithuania produced compost and their effect on soil and plants. And still, I am continue working in the same institution now as a senior researcher in the same topic related on the I would say organic soil amendments and various other waste streams, their application on soil properties, their quality and contamination, and so on. So what we are doing, there is a big European project called AGP Soil. Actually, it is a unique project through entire Europe, where 26 partners are involved into that project from 24 different European countries. And the aim of this project is to develop the knowledge about the soil, about European soil, synthesize all the obtained results during a lot of years, then share that knowledge to the policymakers, farmers, and other stakeholders. Also apply obtained knowledge to the various agricultural practices and harmonize everything through the Europe. For example, we have a problem that different analysis methods is applied to determine, for instance, phosphorus or nitrogen in the organic matter in the soil and so on. So the main thing of the project is like that. This is depicted the scheme of the project, and it is quite unique, I would say, project. It consists of 26 internal projects and 18 external projects. The difference between internal and external project is that for the internal projects, only the official AGP soil partners were eligible to participate, and for the external projects, there wasn't requirement like that. Anybody who is working in the topic related to the soil could join to the project. But today I will focus more on two internal projects. They are called EOM for soil and biocache, in which our laboratory is involved, in which we are dealing. The first project is EOM for soil, and it is dedicated to external organic matters for climate mitigation and soil health. The leader of the project is from France, INRA institution, and the aim of the project is to propose the best management practices of various organic matters, their preprocessing, and the effect in terms on climate change mitigation and soil health. Another project, Biocache, it is more related with bioeconomy and circular agriculture for soil health. And here the leader is John Helmingen from Wageningen Research. He is an economist, and sometimes for us it's hard to find out the overlapping in the research, because they are thinking a little bit differently than we. But we are working together to get the best results. One of the main outcomes of the OM for soil project is to create, through all the partners who is involved, the database on exogenous soil organic amendments, and to synthesize through the countries, collect the data, how much these matters are produced, what quality they are, and so on. And it is proposed to classify organic matter by origin, processing method, feedstocks, and by physical condition, for example, dry matter. And if it is determine dry matter from 0 to 15%, it attributes as liquids, and from 15 to 25 soft materials, over 25% up to 50 as very dense organic matter materials. The distribution of organic waste in Europe is presented in this figure, and the most predominant is agricultural waste, followed by sewage sludge and other type of the organic matters. And this is the picture which shows what we are working mostly, but of course not only on these, but we are working mostly on the sewage sludge and green waste as a waste, and 3 different processing ways of this waste, like composting, anaerobic pyrolysis to get biochar, and anaerobic digestion. But here I have to know that we are not doing by ourselves this processing, and we don't have the capability to produce these various organic matter. So in case to get them, we have to collaborate with other scientific institutions or industry. We are mainly interested in their quality, contamination, ecotoxicity, and effect on soil and plants. In these substances. Here you can see the composition of the various types of the compost produced in Lithuania, and you can see that the composition varies among the different feedstocks. The lowest amount of the plant nutrients, such as nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, obtained in green waste compost, while for example, in the other type of the compost, like food waste or cattle manure, the nitrogen amount is much more higher. The same table for the biochar, and the same trend as for the compost is that mainly it depends from these feedstocks, and you can see that, for example, if the biochar produced at the same technology and same conditions, and it is produced from rapeseed biochar, very low nitrogen amount. And for example, in sewage sludge biochar, almost I think 16 times higher. Nitrogen amount 16 times higher. This is the same table for the digestates. And yesterday, my colleague Vita presented much more about digestates, and I have to say that there is a different results because mainly she focusing from animal feedstock digestate, and this is the results from plant residue from grain which were used for bioethanol production digestate. And in our research, there is a gap on sewage sludge, especially digestates and preprocessing methods. But recently we got a project with Poland, Sweden, and Denmark, in which we will deal on sewage sludge, different processing methods of the sewage sludge, digestion, pyrolysis, and so on. So the project will help us to fill that gap. And answer the question. We will investigate in the raw material and processed material, plant nutrients, contamination risk, and suitability to be applied into the agriculture. But as we had today, and what would like I say that it's not enough to evaluate nutrient levels, or it's very important to measure the risk, especially when we are talking about organic matters produced from the waste. So we used a methodology offered by Hexon in 1980s on potential ecological risk to estimate, and I prefer that methodology because here it is not only the determine total amount of the, for example, heavy metals taken into account, but also the background concentration of heavy metals in the soil and the elements toxicity factors. And sometimes it could be very small amount of the, for example, cadmium determined, but it possesses very high toxicity factor. And then when you estimate risk, you get very different results. This table shows, this is for individual heavy metals and for cumulative ecological risk, the range which we used. And regarding the compost, it is published paper and all the details could be found in it. This is the results of that potential ecological risk on different organic soil amendments. And this is seen that the highest potential risk was obtained for the savage sludge compost. Also, savage sludge biochar and green waste compost had a moderate risk. But for savage sludge compost, I could say that that risk obtained the highest due to the high amount of the cadmium and mercury and its and them high toxicity indexes, because as I mentioned before, that these metals has very high toxicity. On the other hand, you can see, I would just remind you briefly from previous slide, that compared to the green waste, savage sludge compost contains almost 3 or 4 times higher nitrogen amount. So it's hard to, sometimes it's hard to understand, to weight which is a really beneficial amendment and which could be not so beneficial or hazard for the soil. One more calculation were performed on the time needed to double heavy metals amount in background concentration in the soil if we continuously applied soil organic amendments and at a maximum allowable rate according to the nitrogen concentration, which we calculated according to nitrates directive, 170 kilograms per hectare. And very interesting, and all the details as well is in the same paper if you would like to know more. And very interesting results obtained, because when we see at the time which is needed to double concentration in the soil, zinc in all cases was very similar regarding the determined total amount, because if there is not very high amount of the zinc in the green waste compost, but also green waste compost contains very low amount of the nitrogen. And oppositely is for the savage sludge compost, it contains much more higher amount of the zinc, but also a higher amount of the nitrogen. And when we estimate, we see that it doesn't differ, I would say. In some cases, also nickel demonstrated the contamination. And here we have to be careful when we apply organic soil amendments, because in less than 20 years, we can double the background level in the soil if we apply these amendments continuously. But as well as we talked yesterday about the biofuel ash and heavy metals, maybe we have to evaluate not total amounts of these metals. Maybe we have to analyze, monitor the bioavailable forms of these metals in the soil, but of course it's very hard, especially when you work with waste streams, and nobody knows how they can behave after 1 year after application and so on. Also, continuing about the contaminants, we are dealing with microplastics. We have started to do research on microplastics separated from sewage sludge, and there is the distribution of microplastics from 2 different sewage sludge, from 2 different wastewater treatment plants, which differ in wastewater treatment capacity. And the distribution of the plastic according to the color and shape. Letter A in the figure A indicates low density microplastics, and letter B, it is for high density microplastics. As I say that this is a very initial technique. Here you can see that how it looks like the plastics separated from the sewage sludge through the microscope. For that, we used very simple stereo microscope, but we got the funding to update our infrastructure, and now we're planning to buy better devices which will help us not only to do qualitative analysis of the microplastic, but also to determine the type of the polymer and the quantity of different polymers, of different microplastics separated from any kind of the organic amendments. Also, there is remains one more interest for us while working with soil organic amendments. It is contamination by pesticides or pharmaceuticals. And we identified the gap based on the literature review, that there are no study performed in our country based on the organic contaminants. Briefly, now I am moving to the second part of the presentation, which is about these substances' role in the circular economy. And for that, we performed a survey at the last year at the exhibition. I would say similar exhibition which we visited on Tuesday, but it's a lot of times smaller. Few results I would share from the survey, what answer we got, but survey is similar to others. Some questions may be similar, like Rebecca presented, and when Jonas actually invited to this conference and said, okay, you have to publish something, I said, okay, I have results from the survey, but I am not sure that I am able to publish them because they are too local. Yeah, but maybe it's possible to combine several surveys. I know that for the Lithuanian reviewers will reject, say your survey is local, yeah. We'll get there when we'll get there. Yeah. So the respondents was like that 59% choose that they are farmers, also participated entrepreneurs, scientists, and 50% doesn't want to identify themselves, they choose only other. We asked if you apply the organic waste in your activities, and majority of the surveyed persons asked yes, they asked, but in each group there was some who said that no, they are not dealing with the organic waste. Later we went to the question about unprocessed and about untreated and treated waste streams, and from the untreated waste streams, the most popular most popular choice was manure, followed by plant residues and slurry. For treated waste, it was a mostly popular choice compost, and you can see that biochar, nobody chose biochar, especially when we talk with our farmers, they even don't know what it is, biochar. But very interesting results got to the another surveyed question. If you are not applying the organic amendments but maybe you consider to apply them in the future, the answer is distributed evenly for the slurry, savage sludge, and biochar. And I would say that biochar maybe is a promising technique with a demand in the future, but we need to answer a lot of questions and to demonstrate for the farmers that it works and could help, for example, to reduce maybe applied fertilizers or to keep the water in the soil. And this is the last question which I would like to show. Of course, the survey was much more questions, but I will not show everything about the initiatives which could help to increase the popularity of the organic waste. I am happy with the answer that most of them choose the scientific results presentations, but I hope that they said true, because they knew that we are scientists, and I hope. But you can see that financial support was only in the third place. The first was scientific results presentation and practical presentation, demonstration, field days. I think they need more answers to these questions, what benefits they can get if they apply. So with this, I would like to finish my presentation, and some of the pictures you saw yesterday is the same team as Donata presented. And thank you for support, for travel grant and so on.